Life in the Xylarian palace had settled into a cautious rhythm, but tension lingered like a shadow. Aiden had grown more confident in his role, and the princess had begun to treat him not only as an ally, but as someone whose judgment she could rely upon. Their bond, while still delicate, had strengthened in subtle ways. They shared conversations, strategies, and moments of quiet understanding that neither had experienced before. One morning, a message arrived from a distant colony on the edge of the empire. The colony was in turmoil. A faction opposed to the princess's rule had incited rebellion. The palace council debated whether to intervene directly, but the princess immediately sought Aiden's counsel. "What should we do?" she asked, her golden eyes serious. "Sending soldiers may solve the immediate problem, but it could spark wider conflict. We must be careful." Aiden considered the situation. He knew human strategies often emphasize diplomacy as much as force. "We should assess the situation first," he suggested. "Send a small team to gather intelligence, understand their motives and weaknesses. Then we can act decisively, but without unnecessary conflict." The princess nodded thoughtfully. "Your approach is different, precise. I trust you to guide this mission." The next day, Aiden accompanied the princess and a small delegation to the colony. They traveled in sleek ships that glided silently above the alien landscape. The terrain below was rugged, dotted with towers and settlements that glimmered faintly in the sunlight. Upon arrival, they were met with suspicion. The rebels did not expect the princess herself to appear, accompanied by a human. Aiden observed quietly, noting the expressions, gestures, and subtle signs of hostility. He began to formulate a plan that combined diplomacy with strategic pressure. During a tense meeting with the colony leaders, Aiden spoke calmly, presenting the princess not as a ruler demanding obedience, but as a leader seeking understanding. He listened carefully, acknowledging their grievances, and suggested compromises that would maintain their dignity while preserving the empire's stability. The princess watched closely, impressed by his tact and reasoning. She had always assumed humans acted impulsively, yet here was one using both logic and empathy to navigate a delicate situation. Slowly, the colony leaders began to respond, offering concessions and negotiating terms. Aiden facilitated the discussion, ensuring that both sides felt heard and respected. After hours of negotiation, a tentative agreement was reached. The rebellion would end peacefully, with certain reforms implemented to address local concerns. The princess smiled faintly, a rare expression of satisfaction. She looked at Aiden. "You handled this situation remarkably. I did not expect a human to mediate with such balance." Aiden shrugged, trying to hide his pride. "I only did what seemed fair. It is easier to solve problems when both sides feel respected." Back at the palace, word of their success spread quickly. Some nobles who had doubted Aiden began to acknowledge his abilities. Others remained wary, but it was clear that the human had proven himself valuable in ways beyond physical strength or ceremony. In the following days, the princess and Aiden worked together to consolidate the peace and strengthen their position within the court. They planned strategies, coordinated resources, and even trained together in defensive maneuvers. The princess's demeanor softened further, and she began to show subtle signs of trust and camaraderie. One evening, while reviewing maps of the empire, the princess spoke quietly. "You are unlike any human I have known. You think differently, act decisively, yet you consider the consequences. It is admirable." Aiden looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "I have learned a lot from you as well. Your intelligence, your foresight, it is extraordinary." For the first time, the princess seemed to hesitate, as if weighing her words carefully. "Perhaps humans are not as limited as I once believed. Perhaps there is more potential than I imagined." Their relationship continued to deepen, though it remained grounded in respect and duty. They faced challenges that tested both their skills and their bond. Rival nobles attempted to undermine them, spreading rumors and creating obstacles. Aiden's insight and the princess's authority allowed them to counter these plots. often with subtlety and precision that left their enemies frustrated. During one particularly tense day, an assassination attempt was made on the princess. Aiden was nearby and his instinct saved her. The attacker was disarmed, captured, and interrogated. The princess looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and something deeper, a recognition of his courage and loyalty. "You risked yourself for me," she said quietly, her golden eyes searching his. I did not expect this from a human." Aiden shook his head. "It was my duty. I will protect you and the Empire as best I can." The moment passed, but it left a lasting impact. The princess began to rely on him not just as an advisor, but as a partner in every sense of the word. She consulted him on political decisions, sought his perspective on cultural matters, and even began to share her personal thoughts and dreams. One evening, they walked together through the palace gardens, the alien flowers glowing softly in the twilight. The air was filled with the faint hum of energy, and the city below shimmered like a field of stars. "You have changed my perception of humans," the princess said softly. "I assumed you were impulsive, selfish, weak, but you are none of those things. You are strong in ways I did not expect." Aiden looked at her, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I only try to do what is right. That is all anyone can do." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, Aiden thought he saw a genuine warmth behind her golden gaze. "Perhaps that is why I trust you." Their partnership continued to grow, solidifying into a true alliance. They faced internal challenges within the palace, external threats from rivals and rebels, and the constant pressure of their unique situation. Yet through every test, they adapted, learned from each other, and emerged stronger. Aiden realized that his presence in the palace was no longer just a matter of duty. He had become indispensable to the princess and to the Empire. His courage, intelligence, and humanity had earned him a place of respect, and in doing so, had begun to change the princess's perception of humans. The princess, in turn, had begun to see him as more than just a human she was forced to marry. She recognized his strength, his loyalty, and his integrity. In quiet moments, she found herself appreciating his presence, valuing his insight, and even enjoying the small interactions that had once seemed so formal and distant. One night, as they stood together on a balcony overlooking the glowing city, the princess spoke softly. "I did not expect to feel this way about a human, yet I do. I respect you and I value your presence." Aiden felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of relief and hope. "I feel the same. I never thought I could belong here, but with you I feel accepted, and I am grateful for that." The princess's eyes met his, and for a moment, the palace, the city, and the Empire all faded away. In that quiet space, a bond formed, not just of duty or strategy, but of trust, respect, and a growing connection that neither had anticipated. The days and weeks that followed were filled with new challenges, but Aiden and the princess faced them together. Their partnership became a model for others in the court, demonstrating the power of collaboration, courage, and understanding. In the quiet moments, away from the pressures of the palace and the expectations of the Empire, they continued to learn about each other. Aiden discovered the depth of the princess's intelligence, her strategic mind, and her sense of justice. She discovered his courage, his compassion, and his ability to adapt and thrive in an alien world. Together, they began to envision a future where humans and Xylarians could coexist, not just as allies but as partners. The bond between them, forged through trials, danger, and mutual respect, had become something extraordinary, a connection that transcended duty and tradition. As the palace lights glimmered in the night, Aiden realized that his journey had taken him far beyond what he had ever imagined. He was no longer a human soldier forced into an alien marriage. He was a trusted ally, a protector, and perhaps something more. And the princess, standing beside him, recognized that this human was no ordinary guest or conscript. He was someone who could stand by her side, face challenges together, and help shape the future of their worlds. In the quiet of the palace, under the soft glow of alien lights and the distant shimmer of stars, their bond grew stronger, unspoken, but undeniable. It was a bond that would be tested further, but one that had already begun to transform both their lives, and perhaps the fate of the Empire itself. The human soldier Aiden Cross had never expected his life to take such a strange turn. One day he was stationed on a quiet outpost on the edge of human space, training recruits and monitoring communication signals. The next day, he was summoned to the High Council of the Xylarian Empire, a civilization so advanced and different that even thinking about their customs made his head spin. He had no idea what awaited him, and yet he knew this would change his life forever. Aiden entered the council chamber, a vast space filled with tall columns that shimmered with light. Alien diplomats and nobles lined the walls, their faces unfamiliar and expressions unreadable. Each Xylarian moved with a grace and poise that seemed almost unreal, their eyes reflecting colors he had never seen. At the center of the room, a high-ranking official approached him, a female Xylarian with silver hair that floated around her like liquid. "You are Aiden Cross?" she asked in perfect galactic common. Her voice was calm, yet carried an authority that made him straighten instinctively. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, unsure if ma'am was appropriate. She studied him for a long moment. "The council has decided that you are to wed the youngest princess of the Xylarian Empire. You will travel to the palace and assume your role immediately. Your service will be required in all respects. Resistance is discouraged." Aiden blinked. He had heard of political marriages in human history books, but he had never imagined being personally involved in one. And with aliens? The idea seemed absurd. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. You want me to marry an alien princess?" His voice shook slightly. The official's expression did not change. "It is not a request. It is an order. You are a human diplomat and soldier. Your skills and loyalty have been noted. The princess is young, and this union is meant to strengthen relations between our species. You are expected to comply." Aiden swallowed hard. He had faced alien creatures in training simulations. He had negotiated tense treaties. He had even been shot at in hostile territories. But nothing had prepared him for this. He wanted to protest, but the words would not come. The weight of the council's authority pressed down on him. "Understood," he said finally, though his mind raced. How could he be expected to marry someone he had never met? Someone from an entirely different species? The thought alone was terrifying. He was escorted through corridors that seemed endless, the walls glowing faintly with shifting patterns. Every Xylarian he passed bowed or nodded, showing him respect he felt unworthy of. The palace, when he finally saw it, was unlike anything he had imagined. Towers spiraled into the sky. Translucent bridges connected floating platforms, and gardens bloomed with colors his human eyes could barely process. It was beautiful, intimidating, and entirely alien. In the center of the palace stood the princess's chambers. Aiden hesitated outside the door, his hand hovering over the ornate handle. He had no idea what kind of person awaited him on the other side. Would she be angry, scornful, or worse? Would she see him as nothing more than a tool, a pawn in a political game? The door opened before he could knock. A young figure stepped out, her skin a pale lavender, her hair a deep violet that framed her delicate face. Her eyes were large and golden, and they looked at him with curiosity, but no warmth. She was smaller than he had imagined, almost fragile, yet there was a strength in the way she stood. "You are the human?" she asked, her voice soft but clear. "Yes," Aiden replied. "I am Aiden Cross. I suppose I am here for the marriage." He felt foolish even saying the words aloud. The princess studied him, tilting her head slightly. "You are different from what I expected. Humans are supposed to be rough, uncaring. But you do not look dangerous." There was a hint of skepticism in her tone, but also curiosity. Aiden took a cautious step forward. "I am here to do my duty. I don't want to cause trouble." She regarded him silently for a moment, then nodded. Very well. You will stay here in my chambers until the ceremony. Do not touch anything that does not belong to you. Do not speak unless spoken to. I do not trust you yet. Aiden nodded, feeling the sting of her words. He was being treated like a child or a criminal, yet he knew this was part of the challenge. Understood. The hours dragged as he attempted to understand the strange surroundings. Every object seemed alien, every sound unfamiliar. The princess occasionally observed him from a distance, her golden eyes following his movements. Aiden tried to appear calm and respectful, though every instinct in him screamed confusion and fear. When the time for the ceremony finally came, he was led to a grand hall filled with nobles, advisors, and the highest members of the council. The princess entered, her presence commanding silence. She walked gracefully, and despite her youth, she carried herself with dignity and authority that surprised him. Aiden's heart pounded. He had no idea what the rituals would entail. He followed the instructions carefully, bowing and presenting, ceremonial offerings feeling more like a puppet than a groom. The princess observed quietly, her expression unreadable, her golden eyes studying him closely. The ceremony was a blur of strange gestures, flowing lights, and unfamiliar words. At one point, a council member whispered to him, "This is not just a marriage. It is a binding of trust and honor. Remember your role." Aiden nodded, though the meaning of those words was still unclear to him. He kept his eyes on the princess who stood before him, a mixture of elegance and wariness. Despite the grandeur around them, there was a tension in the air, an invisible line of uncertainty. When it was finally over, the princess spoke to him, for the first time since the ceremony ended. "You are still human," she said simply. "That alone makes everything unpredictable." Aiden gave a small, nervous smile. "I suppose that is true." She looked at him for a long moment. "We will see if you are worthy. For now you may remain in the guest chambers. You will eat when instructed and you will rest. Do not disappoint me." Aiden nodded again, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. He realized that this was not just a personal challenge. It was political, cultural, and perhaps even dangerous. Yet despite the fear and uncertainty, a small spark of determination ignited inside him. He would survive this. He would learn, adapt, and maybe, just maybe, earn the trust of this alien princess. As he lay on the unfamiliar bed that night, staring at the ceiling where lights shimmered like stars, he couldn't help but think of the strange journey ahead. He was a human in an alien world, forced into a marriage that no one wanted, yet something deep inside him whispered that this was only the beginning. Something extraordinary was about to happen, something that would change not just his life but the lives of the princess, the empire, and perhaps even humanity itself. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of golden eyes, alien landscapes, and the unshakable feeling that his life had shifted onto a path from which there was no return. And as the first rays of light touched the palace towers, Aiden Cross rose, ready to face the unknown, uncertain of what awaited him, yet determined to endure. The morning in the Xylarian palace was unlike any Aiden had ever seen. Light filtered through the walls, shimmering with soft colors that changed as he moved. Birds, or creatures that resembled birds, sang from floating gardens. The air was filled with the scent of alien flowers and something faintly metallic that reminded him of space stations. Everything was beautiful yet overwhelming. A servant appeared outside his chamber. "Breakfast will be served in the dining hall. The princess requests your presence afterwards." Aiden nodded. He had learned quickly that in this palace, nothing was casual. Every meal, every step, every word had a purpose. He dressed quickly in the ceremonial uniform provided to him, a mixture of human practicality and Xylarian formality. It felt stiff and strange, but he wanted to make a good impression. The dining hall was vast, with tables floating above pools of glowing liquid. The aroma of unfamiliar foods made his stomach twist. He picked at a dish of bright orange fruits that seemed to shimmer in the light. He noticed the princess already seated at a separate table, her golden eyes observing him as he approached. "You are awake," she said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of amusement and caution. "Good. You must learn quickly here. The Empire will not wait for you to adjust." "Yes, Princess," Aiden replied, bowing slightly. "I will try my best." She tilted her head. "Trying is not enough. You will need more than that." Aiden swallowed. The challenge was clear, and he felt both fear and determination stirring inside him. After breakfast, he was led through the palace halls by an advisor named Solara, a wise and patient Xylarian who seemed to sense his nervousness. She explained the rules of the palace, the hierarchy, and the customs he would need to follow. "The court can be cruel to outsiders," she said gently. "You will be tested, not just by the princess, but by others who resent your presence. Remember your manners, your strategy, and most of all, your courage." Aiden nodded, absorbing every word. "I understand. Thank you for guiding me." Solara smiled faintly. "I hope you survive. Many humans would not last a week here. You have potential." As they walked, Aiden saw the complexity of the palace. Life. Nobles whispered behind his back, some curious, some hostile. Servants moved gracefully, carrying trays and documents, always alert. Soldiers in ceremonial armor patrolled the halls, their expressions unreadable. Every corner of the palace seemed to hum with power, secrecy, and expectation. Finally, Solara brought him to the princess's private study. The princess was seated before a console, her delicate fingers gliding over alien symbols. She glanced up at him. "Sit," she commanded. "We will begin your lessons. You need to understand Xylarian politics, culture, and strategy. If you fail, you will embarrass yourself and your species." Aiden sat cautiously, feeling the weight of her gaze. "I will do my best, Princess." Her lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. "We shall see." The lessons were difficult. The language, the customs, the way of thinking. All of it was so different from what he knew. Yet, Aiden surprised himself. He remembered training sessions with humans and aliens alike, strategies he had studied, and the ability to observe and adapt. Slowly, he began to understand. At first, the princess seemed impatient with his mistakes, correcting him sharply. But she also noticed his persistence, the way he never gave up even when the lessons were exhausting. Something in her eyes shifted, a mixture of respect and curiosity. During breaks, they sometimes walked through the palace gardens. The young princess spoke cautiously at first, asking about human life, his past, and his experiences. Aiden answered honestly, careful to show respect but also to reveal his humanity, his courage, compassion, and loyalty. "You are unlike other humans I have heard of," she said one afternoon. "Most are too arrogant or too weak. You are different." Aiden paused. "I try to do what I think is right. That's all anyone can do." Her golden eyes studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps that is why you survive here." One evening, a commotion arose in the palace. A creature, part reptile, part bird, had escaped from the menagerie and was running through the halls, causing panic. Guards scrambled to contain it, but it was fast and clever, darting between pillars and balconies. The princess's eyes widened with alarm. "We must stop it before it reaches the council chamber." Aiden did not hesitate. Drawing on his training, he assessed the creature's movements and predicted its path. With quick thinking and courage, he managed to corner it using a combination of human ingenuity and calm composure. The princess watched closely, clearly impressed as he subdued the creature without harm. You handled that well," she admitted, her voice quiet but firm. "I did not expect a human to act so decisively." Aiden shrugged, trying to hide his nervous pride. "I've faced dangerous situations before. It's a matter of staying calm and thinking ahead." The princess nodded, a hint of respect in her golden eyes. For the first time, Aiden felt that their relationship was beginning to shift. not dramatically, but subtly. She no longer saw him as merely a human she was forced to marry. She saw him as capable, thoughtful, and brave. Over the next days, they faced more challenges: ceremonial tests, complex political discussions, and subtle threats from jealous nobles. Aiden learned to navigate them, often relying on his unique, human perspective to see solutions others missed. Through it all, the princess continued to observe him. Sometimes she would offer quiet guidance. Other times she remained distant, watching how he handled each situation. Their interactions were still formal, but there was an unspoken recognition growing between them, a shared understanding of duty, courage, and survival. One evening, as they walked through a balcony overlooking the glowing city below, the princess spoke softly. "You are learning quickly. You adapt in ways few outsiders can. It is unexpected." Aiden glanced at her, surprised by the faint warmth in her tone. "I'm only trying to do my best. That is all anyone can do." She nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "Perhaps that is what makes humans different. You do not always follow the rules, but you find ways to survive. You find ways to grow." Aiden felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this marriage would not be as impossible as he had feared. Perhaps he could earn her trust, and in doing so, create a bond that went beyond politics. As the sun set over the palace towers, casting shimmering light across the gardens, Aiden realized something important. He was not merely surviving in this alien world. He was beginning to belong. He was starting to understand the princess, her challenges, and her strength. And she, in turn, was beginning to notice him, not just as a human soldier, but as someone who might stand beside her as an equal. The night was quiet, filled with the soft hum of palace energy and distant alien songs. Aiden lay in his chamber, reflecting on the events of the day. He had faced fear, danger, and unfamiliar customs, yet he had prevailed. More importantly, he had made a small but significant impression on the princess. Sleep came slowly, but it came with a sense of purpose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new opportunities, and Aiden Cross was ready. He would continue to learn, to adapt, and to show the princess and the empire that humans were more than what they seemed. In the quiet of the palace, under the soft glow of alien lights, a small bond began to form. It was fragile, tentative, but real. And Aiden knew that this bond, however small, might one day change everything, not just for him, but for the youngest alien princess, and for the future of human and Xylarian relations alike. The days at the Xylarian palace had grown into a strange rhythm for Aiden. He was no longer just a human outsider wandering through alien halls. He had learned the palace's ways, understood some of its subtle codes, and even managed to earn cautious respect from certain nobles. But he knew that true acceptance was still far away. The princess remained distant, though her golden eyes often betrayed a flicker of curiosity, even admiration. One morning, a sudden alarm echoed through the palace. The glowing halls that had always seemed calm and majestic now vibrated with tension. Aiden immediately rushed toward the source, his instincts from human military training kicking in. The princess appeared at the same moment, standing at the head of her guards. Her eyes were sharp, her posture alert. "What is happening?" Aiden asked as he reached her side. "A threat has entered the city," one of her advisors said urgently. "A rebel faction from the outer colonies has arrived. Their goal is to destabilize the palace and capture the princess." Aiden felt a chill run down his spine. Political threats were one thing, but a direct attack was another. He looked at the princess. She did not panic. Instead, she surveyed the situation with calm authority. "Prepare the defenses," she commanded. "Alert all patrols. We cannot allow them to breach the inner sanctum." Aiden followed her lead, moving swiftly to coordinate with the palace security. The rebels were cunning, using the complex architecture of the palace to their advantage. They moved through hidden corridors and passageways, trying to find a way to reach the princess undetected. Aiden's mind worked quickly. He used both his knowledge of human tactics and the lessons he had learned about Xylarian strategies. He directed the palace guards to strategic points, set traps, and created diversions. His presence was calm, efficient, and surprisingly effective for someone who had only recently arrived. The princess observed him closely. She had always believed humans were unpredictable, often reckless. But Aiden was different. He thought ahead, adapted quickly, and took calculated risks. She felt a strange sense of respect growing inside her. As the first wave of rebels entered the palace, Aiden confronted them with a combination of strategy and courage. Using non-lethal methods, he incapacitated several intruders, guiding the palace guards to take control. The rebels were skilled, but they had underestimated the humans' adaptability and the princess's command. During the chaos, the princess moved toward the inner chambers, but one of the rebels managed to corner her. Aiden reacted instantly. He leapt forward, blocking the attack and protecting her with his own body. The rebel was skilled, but Aiden's quick thinking allowed him to disarm the attacker and neutralize the threat. The princess's golden eyes widened, a mixture of surprise and something else she had not expected. Trust. She realized in that moment that Aiden was not just a pawn or a ceremonial husband. He was capable of protecting her, of standing by her side in danger. When the threat was finally subdued, the palace was in a tense calm. The intruders had been captured, and the security forces had restored order. The princess turned to Aiden, her expression unreadable at first. "You acted well," she said finally. "Better than I expected." Aiden wiped sweat from his brow, trying to catch his breath. I just did what I had to. The palace and you. It was my duty." The princess studied him for a long moment, as if trying to understand something deeper. "Duty is one thing," she said softly. "Courage is another. You have both. That is rare among humans and rarer still among those who are here for appearances." Aiden felt a warmth he had not expected. Respect from the princess was something he had not dared to hope for. "Thank you," he said quietly. In the following days, life at the palace shifted subtly. The princess allowed Aiden more access to her personal study, asking his opinion on security measures, political alliances, and cultural interactions. She still maintained her authority, but there was a new layer to their interactions, a recognition of his ability and insight. Aiden noticed that their conversations were no longer just formal lessons. The princess shared her thoughts, her fears, and occasionally fragments of her hopes. In turn, he spoke about human experiences, about life on Earth, and the values that guided him. They were still worlds apart, yet these small exchanges began to build a bridge. One afternoon, while reviewing palace security data, the princess turned to him with a question. How would humans respond if our empire faced this kind of threat? Aiden considered her question carefully. Humans rely on both strategy and improvisation. We plan, but we adapt when things change. Flexibility can save lives. She nodded thoughtfully. I see. You have a point. Perhaps we underestimate your kind, because we do not understand your methods. Their dialogue became a daily exercise in learning. She, learning the human way of thinking. He, learning the depths of Xylarian intelligence. With each conversation, the princess's demeanor softened, though her eyes always retained their sharp edge. One evening, the princess invited Aiden to accompany her to the palace's observation deck. The city stretched below them, glowing in soft light, while distant stars shimmered beyond. The princess spoke quietly, her voice almost contemplative. You handled the threat well, she said. Not just with strength, but with thought. That is what matters here. Many would have failed or panicked. Aiden looked at her, his own voice calm. I only wanted to help. I wanted to protect you in the palace. That is all. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, Aiden thought he saw vulnerability in her expression. I did not expect a human to show such understanding. Perhaps I judged your kind too quickly. Aiden felt a small spark of connection. Perhaps we can learn from each other. She nodded. Perhaps we can. Over the next few weeks, the palace experienced smaller threats and tests, both political and practical. Aiden faced challenges from rival nobles who resented his presence, from advisors who doubted his abilities, and from logistical puzzles that required human ingenuity. Each time, he succeeded not by force alone, but by thinking creatively, adapting quickly, and acting with integrity. The princess began to rely on him, not only for protection but also for counsel. Their interactions became a partnership, tentative but growing stronger with each shared challenge. They learned to anticipate each other's decisions, and a silent trust developed between them. One day, while walking through the palace gardens, the princess paused and looked at Aiden with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You are not like the others. You do not seek power, nor do you crave recognition. You act for what you believe is right. That is unusual." Aiden smiled faintly. "I believe everyone should do what they can to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is all." Her golden eyes met his, and for a long moment, neither spoke. The palace, the gardens, the alien city, all faded into the background. In that quiet space, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of mutual respect, courage, and growing trust. That night, Aiden reflected on everything that had happened. He had faced danger, learned an alien culture, and begun to build a bond with a princess who had once seemed untouchable. Their relationship was no longer just formal. It was evolving, slowly but undeniably. He realized that this was the turning point. The princess was beginning to see him not merely as a human forced upon her, but as a person capable of thought, courage, and loyalty. And in that recognition, Aiden felt a sense of hope he had never experienced before. As he drifted to sleep, he knew the challenges were far from over. Greater threats would come, and the palace and the princess would rely on him more than ever. Yet for the first time, he felt that he was not just surviving in this alien world. He was beginning to belong, to earn a place, and perhaps even to change the way the princess and the empire saw humanity. And in the quiet of the palace, under the glow of alien stars and the soft hum of energy, a fragile bond began to form. One of trust, courage, and the faintest hint of something more. It was a bond that would be tested, strengthened, and ultimately define the future of both the human and the Xylarian worlds. The city was tense, alive with the knowledge that the threat from beyond the stars was growing. Messages from distant outposts reported strange movements, sudden attacks, and unusual phenomena. Citizens whispered of shadows and strange lights in the sky, but few understood the true danger that loomed. Only the princess and her father knew the full scope of the coming storm. The princess stood on the balcony of the royal palace, the twin suns casting long shadows across the marble floors. Her heart was heavy with responsibility, but also full of resolve. She had trained, learned, and fought alongside her father. She had faced challenges she never imagined, and yet she felt ready for what lay ahead. Her father, the human warrior, approached quietly, his presence calm but commanding. "The time has come," he said. "The threat is near, and we must act decisively. There is no room for hesitation or doubt." The princess nodded. "I understand, but we must be careful. The enemy is clever, and they will exploit any weakness." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are no longer a child who laughs at humans. You have learned our strengths, and you have grown into a leader capable of guiding your people. Together we will face this challenge, and together we will prevail." The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. The enemy forces were spreading across the northern territories, moving swiftly and with coordination that suggested intelligence far beyond simple instinct. The princess and her father would lead a united force, combining human tactics with alien strength and technology. Their goal was to intercept the enemy, protect the cities, and reveal the true power of their alliance. As the armies gathered, the princess felt a surge of pride. Soldiers, both human and alien, looked to her for guidance. Her father had taught, Her not only combat skills but leadership, strategy, and the value of trust. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also the confidence that came from preparation and knowledge. The battle began at dawn. The enemy forces advanced like a shadow across the plains, their movements precise and coordinated. Yet the humans, and aliens working together under the guidance of the princess and her father, met them with determination and strategy. Traps, ambushes, and clever maneuvers disrupted the enemy lines, forcing them to adapt constantly. The princess led from the front, her movements swift and confident. She anticipated the enemy's actions, positioning her forces to maximize their effectiveness. Her father fought beside her, a calm and steady presence, combining human combat techniques with alien agility. Together, they were a force no one had expected, an unpredictable, united front that challenged every assumption the enemy had made. Hours passed in a tense and chaotic dance of strategy and combat. The enemy proved relentless, but the human and alien forces adapted, learning from each encounter, exploiting weaknesses, and protecting each other. The princess felt a sense of unity she had never experienced. Humans and aliens, once separate, worlds apart, were now working as one. In the midst of battle, the princess spotted a group of enemy commanders attempting to flank their forces. Without hesitation, she signaled her squad to intercept. Her father joined her, moving with precision and strength. They fought together, anticipating each other's moves, their coordination a reflection of trust and understanding built over weeks of training and shared experience. The enemy commanders were defeated, and the remaining forces faltered. The tide of battle shifted. Soldiers cheered, and the enemy, realizing they had underestimated the alliance, began to retreat. By nightfall, the battlefield was quiet. The victory was hard-won, but decisive. The princess and her father surveyed the plains, knowing that the threat had been delayed, but not entirely eliminated. Returning to the palace, the princess felt a mixture of relief and reflection. She had seen the strength of humanity, not only in her father but in the soldiers, in the tactics, and in the courage to face the unknown. She realized that humans had something unique: adaptability, creativity, and a resilience that could inspire even the most advanced alien civilizations. Her father turned to her, a faint smile on his face. "You have led with courage and wisdom. Today, I am proud of you." The princess felt a warmth she had never known. "I could not have done it without you. You taught me to think, to anticipate, and to act with purpose. You showed me the strength humans carry." He nodded. "And you have shown me that humans can be more than individuals. We can unite with others, we can learn, and we can inspire. This bond, between human and alien, father and daughter, warrior and princess, it is the beginning of something greater." Over the following weeks, the princess and her father worked to strengthen the alliances between humans and aliens. Knowledge was shared, strategies refined, and defenses improved. The citizens of the cities saw the human not as a stranger, but as a protector and leader. Respect and admiration grew, and the laughter that had once marked their first meeting was replaced with trust and recognition of human strength. The princess herself changed. She had laughed at humans, doubted them, and underestimated their capabilities. Now she understood. Human courage, ingenuity, and heart could change the course of history. She had seen it in her father and in herself. She had become a leader, capable of guiding her people through the challenges ahead. One evening, as the sun set and the skies turned shades of gold and violet, the princess and her father stood together on the palace balcony. The city below was alive with lights and movement, a testament to resilience and unity. "Father," she said softly, "I never imagined that humans could be so remarkable. You have changed everything I believed. You have shown me that strength comes in many forms, and that courage and heart can overcome even the greatest threats." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "It is not just me. It is also you, your people, and the willingness to grow and learn. Together we have proven that humans and aliens can unite, that differences can become strengths, and that hope can survive, even in the darkest times. The princess smiled, a sense of peace settling over her. She no longer doubted the bond she shared with her father, nor the power of humanity. Together they had faced danger, uncovered truths, and strengthened the future of their world. And she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as father and daughter, as humans and aliens united. The twin moons rose above the palace, casting silver light across the city. The princess felt a sense of hope and certainty she had never known before. Humans had arrived, once laughed at, underestimated, and doubted. Yet their courage, intelligence, and heart had left a mark that could not be ignored. And her father, the human warrior, had shown her the true power of humanity. The city slept peacefully that night for the first time in many weeks, unaware of the threats that had been averted and the bond that had changed the course of history. The princess and her father stood side by side, looking to the stars, knowing that the journey was far from over. But one truth remained clear. Humans, with all their differences, imperfections, and unpredictability, were capable of greatness. And with courage, wisdom, and heart, they could stand alongside even the most advanced alien civilizations to protect, to inspire, and to triumph. The princess laughed softly, this time not in mockery, but in joy. She had once laughed at the human warrior doubting his abilities. Now she understood. He was not just a warrior, he was her father, her teacher, and her ally. And together, they would face whatever the galaxy had in store. And in that moment, under the light of the twin moons, a new chapter began. A chapter of unity, courage, and hope, where humans and aliens stood together, stronger for their differences and ready to shape the future with heart and wisdom. The journey was complete, but the story of father and daughter, of human and alien, of courage and hope, had only just begun.